Today we are going to learn about negative and zero exponents. And we already touched on this on Thursday, but today we're going to specifically be focused on this. So if you would go to your star chart and let's look up the rule for negative exponents. What does it say to do when you have a negative exponent? Put it underneath the fraction and get rid of the negative exponent. Now, this is totally different than having a negative base. A negative base is perfectly fine. Okay? You don't worry about negative bases. So if you have negative 2 squared is good. Yes? But if I have negative 2 to the negative 2 power, that's when I have to deal with this. Now, on the EOC, if the answer choices have negative exponents, then you pick it as a negative exponent. But if they have positive exponents, then you have to know which one has the same value. Make sense? Yes? And then you'll notice on the IXL assignment on Friday, some of it said to write it how it was. Some of it said to write them as positive exponents only. So you're constantly just having to read and follow the directions. Okay? So let's go over, separate this thing in two. And then at the top, let's write the negative exponent rule. So the rule says, if you have any number raised to a negative power, simply take it and move it to the bottom of a fraction and take the negative off of the exponent. Now, if there's nothing to put on top, what do we put? A 1. Okay, leave some space right here because we're going to do something different. Now come over here and let's do an example. What would 3 to the negative 2, how could I write that as a positive exponent? 1 over 3 squared. Very good. Or you could say 1 over 9. Yes? All right. Now let's go do another one. What if you have a fraction and the negative exponent is on the bottom? Yeah, it's basically like a double negative, right? So what is it going to do? It's going to come to the top and become a positive. So let's do an example of that. What if I had 1 over 8 to the negative 5? What would I do? Bring 8 to the 5, put it on top, and get rid of the negative exponent. Those have the same value. Questions on this? Okay, now we're going to talk about zero exponents. You're going to memorize the rule, but I am going to teach you why it works. So, if you have any number raised to the 0 power, pay attention, this is a big one. If you have any number raised to the 0 power, the value will always be 1. And I'm going to explain why. Okay? Let's take a literal problem. So everybody do 2 to the first power over 2 to the first power. If I was to follow the exponent rule, I would do, what would this be? Multiplication or division? This is division, so what would I do to my exponents? So I would have 2 to the 1 minus 1, which is what? 2 to the 0. And 2 to the 0 is 1. What did we learn? Anything raised to the 0 power has a value of 1. Now, let's take this and figure out why. Isn't 2 to the 1 over 2 to the 1 simply 2 over 2? What is 2 divided by 2? So that's why it happens. Because when you're doing this, you're just subtracting like 2 to the 1 minus 1, which is 2 to the 0. But just memorize it. Anything raised to the 0 power is 1. Okay, over here, do this. Y plus 2 in parentheses. Write it down, please. y plus 2 in parentheses raised to the 0 power is also going to have a value of 1. Anything raised to the 0 power has a value of 1. Now, another thing just to remind y'all, this does not really have to do with today's lesson, but it's stuff you need to remember from 6th grade. Can you divide by 0? No. Can you have 0 as a numerator? Yes. Can you have 0 as a denominator? No. Okay, so just remember that. If you ever end up with a problem and 0 is the numerator, then your answer is 0. If you ever have a problem and 0 is the denominator, your answer is no solution. It just can't happen. Okay? All right, let's go do some problems together. Okay, 3 to the negative 6 power. How could I simplify this and get rid of the negative exponent? Put it on the bottom of a fraction. So there's nothing to put on top, right? Come on, guys, focus. What do I put on top? So 1 over 3 to the 6. And if you wanted to, you could take your calculator and expand 3 to the 6 power. Okay? All right, look at this one. Anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. Now, this one's interesting. What did we learn last week about anything raised to a power outside of parentheses? Everything inside the parentheses has to be raised to the power that's out there, right? Okay, so I have to raise 1 to the negative 2 power, and I have to raise 5 to the negative 2 power. So both have to be raised to the power. Now I can go deal with my negative exponent rule. Yes? Okay, so this one is going to go where? To the top. This one's going to go where? To the bottom. So I end up with 5 squared on top and 1 squared on bottom. Could I expand that? What is 5 squared? 25. What is 1 squared? So what's 25 divided by 1? 25. Okay, y'all try this one on your own. And then if you wanted to take it a step further, you could do both of these answers are correct. Okay, how do we do? Good? Okay, let's look at the next one. Anytime I have a negative exponent, I move it to the bottom. So I would have 1 over 0 to the 5th. Somebody tell me about this problem. This is a numerator. This is a denominator. It's no solution. Why? You cannot have 0 as a denominator. So this is 1 over 0, because 0 times 0 times 0 times 0 times 0 is 0. And you cannot have 0 as a denominator. Okay, now look at the next two problems. Are they the same problem or are they different? They're different. Why? This 5, the negative doesn't belong to it. It belongs to the answer. This 5, the negative belongs to it. Make sense? All right, this one, anything raised to the power of 0 is? No, it's not 0. Anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. But this one, you don't deal with the negative until the answer. Okay, so I'm only raising 5 to the power of 0. What is 5 to the power of 0? 1, but I have to bring down the negative to put in the answer. Do y'all see the difference? All right, let's look at these next 3 problems. Are they the same problem or are they different? They are different. Okay, this one, does the negative belong to the 12? Look at it. Yes. Okay, so the base has a negative 12, so you leave it with the 12. All right, negative 12 is being raised to the second power, to the negative 2 power. Can I have a negative exponent? So where do I have to bring it? So I have 1 over negative 12 squared. Now, I've told y'all last week that a negative times a negative is a positive. Don't put it in your calculator. Your calculator gets confused. If you put in negative 12 squared, it's thinking that you want to leave the negative with your answer. You would have to put in negative 12 squared, and I think it would do it correctly, because now the calculator knows, oh, you're trying to do negative 12 times negative 12. But you just need to know that a negative times a negative is a positive. So this would be the same thing as 1 over 144. Okay, let's deal with this one. When do I deal with this negative sign right here? I put it in my answer. So I just bring it down and deal with it later. So I'm going to deal with this first. This is going to be 1 over negative 12 squared. And we've already decided, we already did this problem. It's just 1 over 144. But this says I have to take my answer and make it negative. So my answer would be negative 1 over 144. And this is basically going to be the same thing. You're just going to turn your answer negative. Okay, so this comes down to the bottom. I have 1 over 12 squared, which is 1 over 144. And then I make my answer negative. Okay, now we're going to just go do problems that we've already learned, but put our answers in proper form. Okay? All right, let's go over what we've already learned. When you are multiplying product and the bases are the same, what do you do to the exponents? Add. When you are dividing and the bases are the same, what do you do to the exponents? Subtract. When you are raising a power of a power, what do you do to the exponents? Multiply. Do we need to write these rules down here, or can y'all use your star chart? If you need to write them down, you can write them down. Okay, we'll go back to it. All right, look at the first one. They want us to write our answers only using positive exponents. So we're going to have to deal with them if they're negative. All right, here we go. What is going on between these bases? They're the same, but tell me, what is going on? Multiplication. So what do I do to the exponents? So obviously we need to go write the rules down. When you are multiplying bases that have the same base, you add the exponents. When you are dividing and the bases are the same, you are to subtract the exponents. When you are raising a base to a power and it's being raised to another power, you multiply the exponents. All right, now y'all can look at it. What should I do to these exponents? Add them. So I have 6 to the negative 4 plus 4. What is negative 4 plus 4? So I have 6 to the 0 power. Anything raised to the 0 power is 1. Okay, which rule am I going to follow here? Power of a power. So what am I going to do to the exponents? So I have 4, and negative 2 times 2 is Negative 4. Can I have a negative exponent?
No.
So I bring it to the bottom of a fraction, and I take the negative off. If you want to expand that, you can. 4 to the 4th power is 256, but you could leave it. Are we good? All right, this one. I have a negative exponent on the bottom. What should I do? Bring it to the top, and then don't write the negative exponent. 3 to the 4th power. And if you wanted to expand it, 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 81. Okay, now let's look at this one. Which rule am I going to follow up here? Quotient of power. So what am I going to do to the exponents? Subtract. So I keep the base. Are y'all with me? Don't worry about the negative exponent until your answer. Like, leave them negative. And then once you have your final answer, then deal with it. Okay? So I have 5. I'm going to subtract negative 1 minus 2. Does everybody understand what I did? I took the top exponent and I'm subtracting the bottom exponent. Okay, if you use your calculator, negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. If you don't, then you would keep change, change, and that would tell you it's a negative 3. Yes? So I have 5 to the negative 3. Is that a good answer? No, it wants me to write it with positive exponents, so I bring it to the bottom of the fraction. Are we good? Okay, I want you to try the last two on your own real quick. Question, do you care that the negative 2 is a negative? Do we care about bases being negative? No. Okay, on the first one, I have negative 2 raised to the 5 plus negative 5. Why did I add them? Because it's the product rule, yes? 5 plus negative 5 is 0. Anything raised to the 0 power is 1. All right, try the next one on your own. Check it with mine. Are we good? Any questions? Okay, flip to the next page. Remember, I don't deal with negatives until I'm at the final answer. So the first thing I'm looking for, is there anything I can combine here because the bases are the same? No. So I'm at a final answer, so I just need to get rid of the negative exponent by pulling it to the top. So this is just 8 squared. If you want to write 64, that's fine, because 8 times 8 is 64. Same thing here. Again, you don't deal with negative exponents until you're at your final answer, but there's nothing for me to combine because there's no base that's the same, so I'm at my final answer, yes? So what do I need to do? Pull this to the bottom, so I have 1 over 8 squared, or 1 over 64. Okay, this next one. Are there any bases that are the same? Yes, this is where if you're getting confused, highlighters really come in handy because you can highlight the ones that have the same base. So 7 and 7 share the base of 7. Now, how would I combine these exponents based on my rules? Look at your rules if you need to. How am I going to combine them? Subtract. So when you subtract, you pull it to the top. Yes? So I'm going to do 7 to the 3 minus 5. Where's this x going to stay? On the bottom right now until I deal with this. Now I'm just going to simplify. What is 3 minus 5? So I have 7 to the negative 2 over x. This answer is a good answer, but I have been asked to leave them as positive exponents. So to do that, I'm going to have to pull this 7 to the negative 2 to the bottom and take off that negative exponent. So what would go on top if there's nothing up there? 1. Guys, the x does not miraculously move to the top. Okay, the x obviously has an exponent of negative 1, which is why it's at the bottom. Okay, so I would do 1 over 7 squared x. And if you want to do 7 squared, 7 times 7 is 49. So you could have 1 over 49x. It's the same thing. Are we okay? Look at the next one. How would I deal with this problem? What's the first thing I need to do? The parentheses. This power needs to be distributed to everything in the parentheses. That does not mean I'm multiplying 3 times 2, because 2 is a base, yes? That means 2 is being raised to the third power. X is being raised to the third power. Now, y to the negative 5 also needs to be raised to the third power. How would I do that? Look at your rules. Multiply them. So I have y being raised to the negative 15 power. Is there anything else I can combine? No. So at the end, when there's nothing else to combine, deal with your negative exponent and move it. Okay, so what am I going to move? Y to the 15 needs to go to the bottom. So I have 2 cubed, x cubed over y to the 15. Be careful when you move it to the bottom and don't write the negative sign again. And could I have expanded 2 cubed? 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. All right, let's do some fun ones. Everybody ready? Highlighters really help. Okay? Everybody look at this problem. What's the first thing I'm going to have to deal with? This parenthesis. So only cover all that up and just look right here. What does this negative 2 need to do to everything? All of this needs to be raised to the... Okay, so I have 2 being raised to the negative 2. I have x being raised to the negative 2. And now can I just rewrite everything else? Okay, so I have y to the 5th over negative 4 x squared y squared. Do not worry about negative exponents until the end. Did everybody hear me? All right. Is there anything that can be combined with each other? So these x's can be combined with these x's, and these y's can be combined with these y's. Do y'all agree? Do you see how the colors kind of help? Yes? All right, here we go. I'm just going to, could I go ahead and deal with this if I wanted to and bring it to the bottom because there's nothing to combine it with right now? I could, or I could do it in the next step. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to go ahead and bring it to the bottom. So I have 2 squared times negative 4, and then I'm going to deal with my x's. When I go to subtract, bring it to the top. Okay? So I have x to the negative 2 minus, what? 2. And then I have y to the 5 minus 2. All right, now let's go figure this out. I can change right here. Yes? Okay, what is negative 2 plus negative 2? So I have x to the negative 4. Y to the, what's 5 minus 2? 3. Over. Now question, What's 2 times 2? What's 4 times negative 4? So negative 16. And that's all I got on bottom, right? Is there anything else here that I can combine together? Yes or no? No. All the regular numbers have been combined. All the x's have been combined with x's. All the y's have been combined with y's. Does everybody agree? Now I can go make sure that it looks good and I don't have negative exponents. Is this negative 16, does it have a negative exponent? No. It's just a negative base. So I leave it alone. But what do I need to do to this x? Bring it to the bottom. All right, so here we go. I have y to the third left all by itself on top over negative 16x to the fourth. Okay, I'm going to let you try this one on your own. And I'm going to say this. You are going to combine x's with x's. Don't forget that it has an exponent of 1 if it doesn't have anything. You're going to combine y's with y's. Z is going to be left alone. Yes? These two, I hope you're listening. These two are regular numbers, but they both have negative exponents. So you will have to move those. This one's going to move to this one's going to move to the top. And then you can expand it out. If the fraction can be simplified, great. If it can't, then they stay alone. Okay? Try to do it on your own. Okay, I did step 1 on the board if you want to check. I didn't simplify, just moved everything to where I can do it. I am going to expand those regular numbers. 2 to the 4th, use your calculator, 3 cubed if you don't know it. I put the next step on the board if you'd like to look at it. That is not my final answer, though, because I can't have negative exponents. Okay, my final answer's on the board if you'd like to check. How'd we do? These are the more challenging ones, so if y'all are getting these, you're doing great. All right, let's try this one. I'm going to let y'all think about it and try it on your own. I will do step 1 on the board, but don't look till you're ready. This 3 has to go to everything in parentheses. Do the last one if you already finished. Did anybody have questions on this one? Did you have a question on this one? Are you sure? If you put this, it's the same thing. I just expanded 2 to the 4th. How did we do? Good? Or are we starting to catch on? All right, I'm going to pass out the on 1 through like 18, actually the whole front page. The whole front page, you can leave them like with the base because none of the front page has any type of variable. Do y'all notice that? There's no variables. Okay? So you can leave them like number 1 is 6 cubed. Does it need to happen anything? Could it stay 6 cubed? Or could you expand it? Either way. So I would take either answer. Same thing with number 2 and number 3. But number 4, 2 to the negative 1 is not a good answer. So I would do 1 over 2. On my answer key, I have it as the exponential answer and as the expanded answer. So I'll take either, okay? Flip to the back, so y'all are going to see how easy the front page is. On the back, I took some of them out. I'm not sure why. Let me look. Take off number... I don't know why I took them off because they're not hard. Take off 45. I'm gonna do 37 with you. Everybody look at 37. Do y'all see the fraction 2/3? Do I need to do anything to that fraction? There's no negative exponents on it. Is it simplified? 2/3 can't go any simpler, right? So the 2 is going to stay on top. The 3 is going to stay on. Yeah. Now, can we deal with the x's? When I go to subtract, I pull it to the top, right? So I have 2x to the negative 1 minus, what is this? It's not a 3. Minus negative 3. This is why most people get confused on these. They don't see the double negative. So this, everybody look, this is negative 1 minus negative 3. Are we good? All over 3. Now I can go deal with this. You can put it in your calculator, it'll do it for you. Negative 1 minus negative 3, or you could just do change. What is negative 1 plus 3? 2. Yes? Is 2 a positive? So it stays on? So my answer would be 2x squared over 3. So when you're subtracting, look at 38. How would I set this up? 2 minus negative 4. Number 40, 3 minus negative 2. Now look at number 40. Is 8 over 8 a fraction? Yes. Can it be simplified? What's 8 divided by 8? And since it's a whole number, it goes on top. Yeah, so you always simplify it. Okay, you do have to deal with the regular numbers. Look at 34. Can you combine 7 times 4? 7 times 4 is 28. Then deal with your x's. Make sense? Okay.